So, welcome everybody. Today we'll be discussing about one of the important aspect of photography, which most people really leave it to fate. Best backup workflow for photographers. So, uh, today I'll talk from my own personal experience. I started my photography long back in '84, film photography, and as you know, I'm also a doctor. So at that time, I was doing my MBBS, joined post graduation in 1991. Till then, I was shooting quite proficiently. And later, what happened was during post graduation days, it was very difficult for me to keep up with the photography. So, what I did, I collected all my negatives, all the prints, everything, and stored them in the attic of my house. So, I had a old antique house and tile roof. So nicely packed in, very expensive plastic because in 90s getting a good plastic was a very tough job. And I made sure that no water goes in and sort of airtight, and kept it there. And uh, after my post graduation, 5 years, I went back to pick up all my negatives as well as the positives. Unfortunately, one of the tile was leaking, and you know how my Mudabidri place is. It's very humid. So every one of the negatives, every one of the prints and the positive slides, all were ruined. Every one of them were ruined. At that time, we didn't have a scanning facility. So I was thinking, I'll keep it, clean it, and later do a scanning. But I totally lost probably close to about, say, 20,000 prints. So all my early days of photography are totally ruined. Now, this is the old days. But this happens to every one of us in not just photography, everywhere else. If you don't know, I also do some sort of hard disk recovery, card recovery, and other things for my friends. I just started for my own purpose, but later everybody started asking me to perform that. And then I realized it's a huge problem among photographic community. So let's talk about backup strategies. So we think that nothing can go wrong. So our usual assumption is that nothing can go wrong. But as of now, one of the biggest threats are not viruses. They are these ransomwares. So ransomwares, malwares, and viruses. Viruses are a little bit lower now in the last 3 4 years because of good viral antivirus softwares built into operating system like Windows 10 and Mac OS. So ransomware really comes up, and many of my photography friends have recently been hit with the ransomware, and we need a strategy to really come out of these ransomware as well as malware, uh, and then deleting files, accidentally deleting files. We assume that we have copied it somewhere, and then we delete the files. We format the SD card, and then realize that those SD cards had a file which was not really copied. We shoot for 2 or 3 sessions, then only copy for only one session and forget to copy the other session, and then we go back to another photography shoot and then try to photograph again, erasing the file or formatting the file on the SD card. We also make a mistake of deleting files when the SD card is full. We take only one SD card, not many SD cards. We only take one SD card and then realize that it's almost full. So we try to delete it, and deletion of files uh, sometimes causes corruption, and that causes difficulty to read those files. So it's always better to have a backup strategy. Hard drive failure is very, very, very common. Your hard drives have maximum listed life of only 3 years. The companies give you warranty only for 3 years because they know that by the end of 3 years the hard disk is going to die. We don't look at hard disk sort of life. So and then we think that hard disks are, they will live forever. One of the biggest problem with the hard disk is any physical damage. For example, if we have an external hard disk which drops from, say, from the table right up to the keyboard, that height itself is enough to damage the running hard disk. Power failures. Okay, many a times we don't work with UPS. Even most of the laptop users don't even connect to a surge protector or a UPS, and our electric supplies are so erratic that if there is a lightning, that lightning not only hits the power lines, it also comes to your house and destroys your hard disk as well as motherboard. Then losing computers. Somebody comes and steals away your computer, all your data, all your hard disks. Then all your work is gone. Fire, accidents. These are all things which can happen. And there is no way of predicting this. So many things can go wrong if you don't do a backup. So your backup strategy basically has to involve all these aspects together. And also it should be quite robust enough to come out of any one of these problems. So we think of, everyone thinks that we have backed up. So, but have we really backed up? So if you think these things are not really a backups. We all think that you're safe, and we think that backing up your laptop to a SD card or on the same laptop is not a backup. Backing up a hard drive to another hard drive, that is not a backup because they are all connected together. So if there is a power surge, your main hard drive will die, your external hard drive also will. And then we think that sending a photograph to a Gmail, to another Gmail account, we have Gmail account worth 15 GB given us free. So why not create a Gmail account for every session and just upload to Gmail? Google might decide one day that they're going to stop all these Gmails. So then you are fumbling with downloading all those 15 GB of cloud storage back to your setup. And Gmail is not meant for saving your photographs. It's a mail account. Backing up your album and copying to another folder somewhere in the hard disk or in the second partition in the hard disk, that is not really a backup. So backup has to be robust. Then we think that there is still a photo in my memory card, so I don't have to backup because the memory card is safe. Think about it. Memory card might get corrupt at any given time. And since you have only one backup at that time, chances are that you might still lose that one backup. Whatever once setting you have, you might just lose it. So in computer world, Carnegie Mellon University first time decided that there has to be a robust plan. This is coming from computer world. It's called a backup rule of 3-2-1. It's called 3-2-1 rule. Easy to remember. Just 3-2-1. So this is the simplest form of backing up, which is robust enough. It's not the all and end all of backing system, but this is one of the very popular backing system. And since you can easily remember 3-2-1, it's considered as one of the best strategies. So let's see how we can use this 3-2-1 strategy in our photography setup without costing too much. I know these are tough times. Corona pandemic is going on. The job aspects, economy, everything is down. So I'm not going to give you a strategy where you will be spending quite a lot. But at the same time, I'm going to tell you a strategy which is robust enough. So between those two, I had to juggle around and find out which is the best way of doing things. And these are the strategies. So what does this 3-2-1 stands for? So 3 stands for you have to have 3 copies of your data. So your data has to be in 3 places. So out of that, you keep 2 of them in separate places, not in the same place. You can't have all the 3 backups in the same place. So 2 of them should be in, one of them should be in two separate places. Okay, and out of that, one should be offsite. Offsite in the sense not near that same. So you have to have three copies of the data, keep them in two separate places or two separate media, and last one must do one of them offsite. Now I'll go through each one of them. So how do you create three copies of your data? How do you keep it in two different media? Media in the sense it can be hard disk, it can be SSD, it can be cloud drive. Now, before I go through that, let me talk about some of the technical jargon which some people may not know.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, let me start with some of the technical jargon which people might think that it might be, they might know or they may not know. So if you know these things, don't worry. If you don't know, uh, here is a way of knowing it. Now, we all know that every computer has a hard disk which is built into it. So that is what's called the internal hard disk, and that's a primary hard disk where your operating system really sits, whether it's Windows or whether it's Macintosh. So both of them have internal hard disk, and now external hard disks have started coming, which are connected either through a USB or a Thunderbolt. These are fast hard disks. Some of them are slow hard disks. The price of slow hard disk is cheaper than price of a faster hard disk. Now, hard disk technology also has improved into what is called, let's say, solid state drives, where there is no moving platter. So, solid state drives are better in the sense they are drop proof compared to hard drives. Normal hard drives, if they are dropped, then the drive dies, it gets damaged, because there is a rotating platter inside, and that platter is the one which get damaged. So any small damage, uh, hard drive really dies. So that's why carrying this drive to an external location, especially a hard drive, is a very risky job. Whereas solid state drives are not so risky. You can carry them. They are drop proof to a certain extent, and since they don't have a moving part, they are much more solid. But unfortunate part of the solid state drive, the price is also very solid. So it's better to have a compromise where you can have 4 TB of a hard disk, external hard disk, is equal to about 500 GB of a solid state drive. So depending on how much money you want to spend, I think you can calculate between one another. Then there is a network attached storage, which is required if you want to do a backup in a larger scale. For example, my data is around 16 GB, 16 TB, terabytes. So I have to either get 4 terabytes hard disks and put it in my computer, or I can create this network attached storage drive, which has got around 5 or 6 4 TB hard drives. Out of that, there is what is called a RAID. RAID is a redundant array of inexpensive disks and drives. Don't have to bother about what that is. The trick there is, if any one of the drive dies, it automatically recovers from the redundant drive. There is one extra drive which keeps sort of a backup, which recovers automatically in case one of the drive dies. So there is a RAID 5 and RAID 6. I have gone for a RAID 6 where even if my 2 drives die, still I can get a recovery out of that. So that is one of the strategies, especially when you have lot of files, and I'll show you how it is really backed up. And then lastly, the cloud storage, which is the in thing now. Now, initially when I wanted to make this webinar, I was thinking of writing up a whole workflow as a text file so that I can share with you, because this is one thing which you need forever. The backup strategy is required just like your camera and lenses. Most of the time we only concentrate on cameras and lenses, but we forget the backup strategy as such. Fortunately for me, Petapixel just 2 days back came up with a very good article which almost encompasses most of what I wanted to tell. So what I'm going to do, I'm giving you a link at the end of this or you can pick it up. It's on the top here. Uh, it came on 2 days back, 14th May. If you go to Petapixel website, Trevor Sherburn wrote a very nice article which almost matches my workflow. So that's why I didn't write separately. I'm giving you this link so you can go and check. And also, as a bonus, I have used some of the images which he has put into my presentation so that you can see. So thanks, Trevor, for this particular article. So now coming to this backup rule. Now let's start with this 3-to-1 backup rule. So basically, you need 3 backups of everything what you have. Everything, when I say, not some of the websites which you are downloaded, which you can always download from internet, something what you have created, that requires a backup. So something which you can't download from website is a real important data. Lot of us download a few things, save some web pages. We consider that as a data. No, that's not really useful, because you can always go back to internet and download those. Don't try to save internet. Internet will remain. So it's not going to die off. So there are a lot of my friends who go to YouTube, download YouTube videos and save them. It's not worth it. You can always go back to YouTube and then watch it. Now, coming back here, this is the 3 backups is what you have created, which you can't get it from. That's the main thing. The second thing is they have to be in 2 different media. So it can be hard disk and a SSD, hard disk and a network access drive, hard disk and a memory card, hard disk and cloud storage, any one of them. So it should be in at least 2 different media. The reason for the 2 different media is they think that all hard disk might die on a same day. So if you have done it only in a hard disk, then the chances of you retrieving it are very, very slim. No, in good old days of DVD, we all used to do that. We used to back it up for a DVD. And now, unfortunately, when I try to read those DVDs, many of them don't work. So if I had made all my backups only on DVDs, then it would have been totally useless. So I think it's better to just stick with um, 2 different media and one of them offsite. So in this case, one of them I have shown it as a cloud, so it can be in the cloud. So let's see how we can do this in a proper way. Then I'll also tell you in a way how you can cut down on that, so that you can cut down the cost, but still don't lose the 3-to-1 backup rule. I'll give you 3 different possibilities. First, let me show you how I do it myself. So when I go for a shoot, so as soon as the shoot is over, or after about 2 or 3 shoots, I make sure that I carry quite a lot of SD cards, not just one card. In my camera, there are 2 card slots, so I'll fill both the card slots, and I copy both the raw files. I don't shoot raw plus JPEG, but if you want, you can do that. One card you can save raw, another card you can save JPEG, or you can save raw to both the cards. This is what I follow. I copy files as they are clicked into both the cards. See, by default, most of the cameras, what they do is they wait for one card to get filled, and only after that they overflow to the second card. Don't do that, because at that time you'll have only one backup. So ideally, you create 2 backups, one in the main card, card 1. Card 1 and card 2 will be recording simultaneously the same picture. Now this may be difficult if you're doing video, because video will record only to one slot, not to both the slots. And ideally, you get a large card as much as possible. It depends on your shoot. So how much large it is, it depends on how your shoot will be. If you are shooting about 300 photographs per shoot, and 3 shoots should be able to fill in one card. So that is a calculation you do. I have 128 GB cards on both slots. So I use 128 GB cards. Now that is because I use Sony A7R4, which produces 60 megapixel images. So that requires 128 GB of space. Now, first thing what I do is either after a shoot or after about 2 or 3 shoots, I come back and download the files either using Lightroom or any other software which you prefer. You can copy it to your hard disk. Lightroom easily imports it, and once you import file into internal hard disk, so this is the internal hard disk first is goes. So there I do the sorting immediately as soon as I download. So once I download, I don't delete the files or format the files from the card. So they still remain. They come into the Lightroom, and first thing what I do is I cull the files. Cull the files in the sense I'll remove all the files which are out of focus. I remove files where the flash didn't work. I remove files where there is somebody photobombing, unless it's good photobombing. If it's a bad photobombing, definitely I remove those. I remove those photos where there is a motion blur. I remove those photos where I can't really make anything out of that particular photograph. All those photographs, I delete it as soon as I download it. I don't edit those files immediately. I just sort them out. I rate them. In Lightroom, I rate them. The good files, I rate them in a star rating, or I can give you pick and unpick. I can give color rating, any one of the ratings in Lightroom. So if you are interested in Lightroom, you can join one of the Lightroom webinars, which I will be doing probably the next week or the week after that, which is on basic library part of the Lightroom. That is importing the file, starring the files, how to cull the files, and how to get the best out of your Lightroom catalog, library, and all those things. I'll be covering up. So once I do that, after that, I copy those files into one of them will be in my hard disk, internal hard disk, and one of them will be in the external hard disk. This is exact clone. So the internal hard disk, which is a 4 TB hard disk, and in this case, it can be internal, it can be external. If I'm using a laptop which has got only SSD, I usually use 2 external hard disks to do the job. If I'm using my desktop, which has got a 4 TB drive, then I'll copy it to the internal hard disk, and then one will be external hard disk. So basically, these 2 hard disks will have exactly the same copy of the files. Now this is my daily copy. Every time when I go for a shoot, I do this and copy it. Now the software I'll use, I'll explain to you how I do the copying part. I don't do actual copy physically, like I don't copy it from one folder and paste it in another folder. That's really a buggy way of copying. You need to do a synchronization softwares. I'll tell you about those sync softwares. Now, the second thing what happens is every night my network storage device that has got a lot of space. So that does another copy. This is automatically done. So every night at 11 o'clock, it will start a sync job of finding out all the new files which have come into the main computer, and then automatically it copies it to my network storage. So that happens automatically. Every day it does, and it will do only the new files. So that means if I've imported around 60 GB today, that 60 GB is here, that 60 GB is here, that 60 GB is here. Now only after it is copied to the network storage, then I delete the file from my memory card. The reason is I already have 3 storages, one here, and one in my network. So that is my 3 strategy. Okay? And these are 2 different media. So then I remove the file from my SD card. Now initially, before this network storage backup happened, My memory card is one storage. These two drives are the two other storages. So again, there are three storages. So, and three storages, two different media. The card is a different media, hard disk is a different media. So it's 3, 2, 1 the same way. And now this is the software what I use. So if you are in Windows, there is a free software called Sync Back Free. This is the address. I'll share these addresses in case you want at the end of the this webinar. So if you are a Macintosh user, I'm not. I use Windows. So you can use this ChronoSync, which is supposed to be as good as Sync Back Free. Sync Back Free is totally free. They have a paid version, but I didn't find it really needed for my work. If you have a large network where you want to spread it across, then probably you have to go for the paid version. It's not very expensive. Whereas the ChronoSync is a paid version in Macintosh. Now, okay, the cloud storage part is the copy 4 really. Now, in case you don't want to do a cloud storage, you can use only these many backup strategies, and still you can have 3-2-1 storage. But unfortunately, this network storage device is not offsite. It is part of this. It is somewhere here itself. So that's why the problem is network storage does not become the real 3-2-1 strategy. It is sort of a fake 3-2-1. Now, coming to cloud storage, there are several cloud storage uh, services available. One, what I use is what's called a Backbase. Backbase, BACK base. Now, that costs around $6 per month. Unlimited storage. It will allow you to store any amount of data. And by default, whatever files you have uploaded, you can upload multiple versions of that particular file, and it will save for 30 days backup of the multiple versions. So let's say that you made edit, you uploaded it, then you realize that your older edit was better, you can always retrieve it. And for some small extra fee, they can allow you to save at least 1 year extra versions also. But I don't require that. And your storage, backup storage is unlimited, as well as you can store it forever. Now, it's easy to say that cloud storage is easy, but if I want to send my 5 to 6 terabyte of files to cloud storage, it takes about 2 years. And in case there is a disaster, all my system is gone, everything is destroyed. If I want to download that, it will take another year for me to download those files also. That's a pathetic state of internet connection what we have in India. Now, fortunately, the cloud storage like these, they can send you either on a SSD drive or on a 6 terabyte hard disk for a fees. They can copy everything and then send it across using FedEx. I don't know whether it works for India, but in US, many people have done that, and they have used that service to retrieve their backup. Now, coming back to these softwares, these are very good. The reason why I recommend software not doing a copy physically is that you tend to forget it. Then you become lazy. After about 2 or 3 times doing that, then you forget it. So your strategy goes for sky. So it's better to create a schedule, allow the software to do the job. They do a very good job. They copy your files, they verify the files, they find out what all files are new ones, and then they will copy it to the storage site as I mentioned. Now, whatever I have shown you is a pretty expensive strategy, because network access drive is an expensive proposition. Cloud storage is expensive. So, in a day of Corona, we all thinking of cutting down to the bare minimum. So let's think about bare minimum backup strategy without losing our overall functionality. So basically at least have, this is bare minimum, I'm telling you. Don't try to cut down on this minimum. So you have to have at least 2 physical backups with copy of everything what you have. So suppose you have a 4 TB hard disk, you have to have another 4 TB hard disk which has to have everything what you have created. Now do that at least weekly. Daily if you do it, fantastic. And always automate it using those softwares. Rotate these physical backups between your house and somewhere else. I'll show you how it is done. And later, think of cloud backup storage. There are free cloud backup storage. For example, Google gives you 15 GB of space. Flickr is not free anymore. It's a pro version. You have Dropbox, which gives you some amount of free. You have an Outlook. Again, OneDrive, some amount of free. So all the imported files, you can convert them into a JPEG file and then upload to these storage sites. Not having a raw capability, but you will be able to keep JPEG files. Full size JPEG file will not be that big. So that's another way of backup everything that matters. Remember, photos are not the only ones you have to backup. You have to backup all your documents, all the important PDF files, all those that is related to your accounts, and all the important files. Every one of them comes under the same backup strategy. Even though I'm talking about only photographs, everything comes into the same strategy. So let me explain before network access storage system as well as cloud storage, how I used to manage it. So this is the system I used to do. So the first half is same. I copy it to a hard disk and then regularly copy it to another hard disk and take this hard disk to somewhere else offsite and keep it there. You can take it to a friend's house, your family house, in-laws house. So when you go there, you have one more hard disk there. So you keep this copy of the hard disk there, bring that hard disk, and that will do a weekly backup of your external hard disk. So you have one copy here, and one copy which rotates offsite. So this is the easiest way. All you need to have is 3 hard disks, which basically have your original file, a copy of the file, and then offsite file. So this is one way of doing it. Or you can go for this particular option. That is one hard disk here, and then continuously send one copy to cloud storage. So if you have a cloud storage option, then you need not take that hard disk to somewhere else. Now let's go to overall backup flow. Keep all your files organized. Now that is important because if you have original files which you have downloaded in several hard disks, it's very difficult for even the software to find out where exactly it is. Physically, you will not be able to find it out. So what usually you do is you miss few of the files. So always make sure that keep one hard disk partition or one hard disk area specifically for your photos. What I usually do is I have one folder, one master folder called photos. So within that master folder, I have every one of these photos arranged in year manner. So I have, starting from 2006 onwards, I have all the digital photos right up to 2020. So 2006, 7, 8, and so on every year. So under every year, there'll be 12 of each month. And then I have different shoots depending on what I have done. Now, since Lightroom allows you to pick up these files and get it from anywhere you want, it's easy to do that. But overall, all my files are under that one big folder called photos. Now, every year, what I do is I clean up my main hard disk, and that hard disk will have only from 2019 or 2020 onwards, nothing more. Now, here, make sure that you keep your files organized, and then keep it simple, like what I just told you. File name can be anything, and usually don't keep a file name in the same manner as the camera gives. Camera gives you IMG something else, GST something else. Rename them to something sensible. Lightroom can immediately do that. When you're importing, it's very easy to do that. All you have to do is just um, go to Lightroom and rename while importing to something sensible. So if you have done a shoot somewhere, say you have gone to Ooty, that number, let it add dates and other. So that way, it's pretty easy, pretty simple to keep the file. Then don't just think about your photos, think about all other things. Memory cards can get corrupted on site. So have redundant memory cards, at least 2 or 3 memory cards. In fact, memory cards are the cheapest ones. And then all your strategy is fine, but all your backups are fine. If you are not really tested your backup, then you're totally ruined. So you all keep on backing up, and then when the disaster strikes, if you don't know how to restore the backup, or your backup is not really working out properly, the only way of finding out is to have a dummy sessions. So think your hard disk is dead today, how you're going to recover it. So do the testing, go back to your backup files and see whether they can be retrieved back easily, whether they can be restored back easily. Now, as a doctor, I always say that prevention is better than cure. This applies even for our backup strategy as well as photography. So have a good backup strategy. That's one. Stick to it, even though it's painful. I know it's painful. You have to do it every day. You have to do it every week, and it is going to cost. And every 3 years, make sure that you change your hard disk. Buy new hard disk. Use a hard disk for redundant backup. Don't use it for the main backup. Create a bootable rescue media in case your operating system goes down. The Windows is very notorious to die off. At least in 7 days, we used to have format days. That sort of bad Windows is gone, but you will never know. Recently, there was a lot of problem with the Windows updates. So once the update happens, Windows tries to restart, and then you have a blank screen. There is no way of restarting those things. So it's always better to do a scheduled backup. So create scheduled backup, and then reduce reduce cost of this particular softwares is also very important. Look for alternatives, look for free softwares, and always have a strategy to get a bootable backup software for your Windows or Mac. You will never know when your Windows will go down. So create a bootable software. My strategy for Windows is I don't install anything on the C drive. C drive is exclusively for Windows. So I make a small partition, say about 60 or 70 GB, or if you want slightly higher, you can go up to say about 100 GB, and make that as a C drive and install Windows only to that. Every software you install, don't install it to C, install it to D. So when you are installing a Photoshop, when you are installing a Lightroom, when you are installing Office software, make sure that installer don't give a default setup. Stop the setup, go there and ask it to install to D drive. So that way your C drive has enough space so that Windows can work and don't get filled up with all those temporary files and all those cache, all the user files which it creates. And every year try to refresh your Windows or Windows so that it works. Now, here are 2 good backup softwares for Windows. Both are free. Paragon has got what's called a community edition, which is a free recovery and backup software, which you can use it. This will create a bootable backup of Windows. So in case Windows dies, all you have to do is just boot it to this particular bootable media or a pen drive which you create, and then using that you can restore the Windows. Macrium Reflect also has what's called a free edition, and that is what I use in my personal uh, so both are free. You don't have to pay for them, and both will save your Windows. So create a bootable version and then start using it. For Mac users, you have a Carbon Copy Cloner is there. Also, there is another called SuperDuper. So this will allow you to create a bootable Mac drive, so you can directly boot into that and then get all your stuff back in a short duration. So this is my presentation today. I try to keep it as simple as possible. It's about 45 minutes. So now I'll take up some of the questions. If you have any questions, you can write it in the chat, or you can unmute your mic and ask me. Let me see. There are a lot of questions in the chat room, so let me first go through the chat. Basavaraj M is talking about Nikon image space is giving 40 GB free depending on the account. Yeah, that's very nice. Shankar, all this is really required if you have good quality images. Yes, definitely. If you have bad, have 40 minutes duration. This is a paid version, so we are quite okay. I won't be able to share the PPT, but I'll share this particular uh, whole video, so you can go through that. That itself is like watching a PPT, whatever it is. That's a strategy which I've been using for last 10 years, right from Windows 98 onwards. Is there any way we can compress data and keep it in a zip file which is lesser size than original? Shrikant is asking this question. So compressed backup is possible. Uh, Backup compression is possible for few elements. For example, text files, when you compress them, they become smaller. JPEG file is already compressed file. Raw file is already compressed file. Try to zip it, it's not going to become smaller and smaller. What you can do is, in case of a raw file, you can convert them into a DNG file. So DNG file allows you to make it slightly smaller. Beware, DNG files only open with Adobe softwares. So Photoshop will open, Lightroom will open, but Capture One and other non-Adobe softwares may have problem with the DNG files. Okay, in India, Amazon gives you about free 5 GB of free space for non-Indian users. So if you are an Amazon Com user, then you will get 5 GB of space. And if you are an Amazon Prime user, you have to pay about $112 per year. You will get unlimited space for photos. So if you are Amazon Prime user in US, that is Amazon.com Prime user, then definitely it is worth, because they are unlimited. But in case of Backblaze, it's only $6 per year. Sorry, per month. Sorry. $6 per month and $60 per year. So I find Backblaze is cheaper because, again, it also gives unlimited storage. Unfortunately, Div apps will not be fine because they are not linked to the Windows. Windows will not know that those files exist. If you restored it from backup, then they'll be fine. But if you restored it, if you reinstalled Windows, install these softwares also. But fortunately, since it is in a D drive, you know which all the softwares which you have installed, so you can reinstall them to the same location in the D, and they will be back in action. Images have been encrypted by ransomware, Mocha. So I'm still having the data. Is there any way to recover and decrypt? You might get some on some day. There are several versions of Mocha ransomware. People are decrypting them one by one. There are several one of them where they were able to get the key and able to decrypt. So once the key is available, they will announce it, and you will be able to use that decryption key and start using them and decrypt your. So the trick what ransomware user makers do is they encrypt a file using a password. So it's a very strong 256 encryption, which is not easy to break. So you can install OS and drive OS to SSD or a hard disk. It doesn't make a difference as far as the operating system is concerned. Apps can also be installed in that way. One thing important is if you keep your working files, if you keep your SS catalog, Lightroom catalog, and cache for both Lightroom as well as Photoshop on SSD, your workflow will be faster. So ideally, you keep your Lightroom catalog. No need to keep your program file. Basically, your catalog needs to be on SSD. Your original file, all of them need not be in SSD. Working file can be in SSD. So just when you're working, you just copy it to the SSD, work there, and then store them in HDD. So that's one way of solving it. How do you build a cheap NAS? Okay, what I did, I think I'll probably publish a blog on how I did my NAS. I got a very cheap computer with the good specification. It doesn't have a monitor. It doesn't have a keyboard. It's just a CPU and a case and lot of hard disks. There is a software called FreeNAS which basically runs it. It runs 24 hours, doesn't consume much, but it does all my required job of saving those hard disks, doing the RAID, sharing it along a whole network. So probably I'll write a blog about it. So it's pretty useful. Any good recovery software for hard disk, just in case if you have only one disk and it's gone and not readable. That's a problem which can be solved. There are quite a few good recovery softwares. There's a lot of free software is also available. I'm not getting offhand name of those software. What I use is a paid software. I have a paid software called RStudio. I also have ASUS Security Suite, which is a paid version. There is a Stella Phoenix Security Suite, which is again a paid version. Then for a card recovery, there are LC softwares. There is one called cardrecovery.com. That's again card recovery software. So these are all paid versions, but some of them are quite cheap. The card recovery software is very cheap. So but there are quite a good free softwares. I'm not getting the name. I'll when I get the name, I'll pass it on. I've installed all my software on C drive, but Adobe's app data is on the C only. How do you keep app data outside C drive? App data always will be in the C drive. So app data cannot go into D drive because app data is coded to the Windows. So wherever Windows is there, it will be there. But you can install Adobe programs to D drive. All you have to do is go to Creative Cloud. Under Creative Cloud, you have to go for the setting. Instead of the default, you ask it to get installed in D drive. Then what happens is all that what you install from Creative Cloud like Lightroom and Photoshop, you'll be able to save it and the program files saved in the D drive. Yes. Varun is telling Nikon is also giving free space now. Yes, I agree. They are giving free space. That's very nice. Only thing is go through their specifications when they are going to close down those services, because you will never know. Many of these services will go down, just like how Orkut and MySpace and all disappear. So even Google, sometime I don't trust it to last forever. How do you enable auto sync between your folder having photos and the computer hard disk to the cloud storage? Okay, there are softwares. Backblaze gives you its own software which basically syncs with it. Amazon also has its own software which basically syncs with it. So it throttles the bandwidth depending on how you want it. There are a lot of our internet providers. They when they see a huge bandwidth which being uploaded, they'll start throttling you. So it's better to keep it at sort of a moderate rate, and then upload files as and when it's happening, and that is possible with these software. So all these cloud storage places have got their own software, which you can use it both in Windows as well as in Mac. Let me show you this if you want. Let me open Synpack. So this is Synpack. I just did one backup. So all you have to do is you just create a new sync setting, give a name, my backup. So this is the name I give. Okay. Sorry. There is already a name. Then they have three options. So one is called backup. Backup means it goes from source to the destination. This is called synchronize. Is what it does is it makes sure that your source as well as the destination will be identical. That is what synchronize. That means if you have deleted something in the source, it will also delete something in the destination. Whereas in the backup, if you deleted something in the source, it won't be deleting in the destination. So that is the difference between backup and synchronize. Mirror, it will mirror exactly same as that of the destination. So if you want to have every file which is there in the destination coming back to the source, then you choose mirror. So by default, you stick with backup. That means it's a one-way flow. From your source file, it goes to the destination. So if you have done some editing here, that file gets edited even in the destination. So that's why you choose backup. Once you give next, so it basically goes from internal drive to external drive. You give a source and you give a destination. So you open here and choose the source and the destination. So then it will give you a dialog box. So you have to find out where your source is. So give your source somewhere. Give say this particular select folder, and then give a destination. This is my NAS. So if I go there and then I say I have to give a destination which is similar. So let me say that's my destination. Select folder. So now this is my source and this is my destination. So that's the only thing what you have to do, and then finish apply. It will ask you whether you want to show a dummy this thing. I usually say no. So since I didn't start the work, it says it's same. So if I want to start, I can say yes, and then now since this example I've already done the sync, my source and destination are identical, so it said absolutely there is nothing to transfer, but otherwise it will transfer files from point A to point B, your source to the destination. That's all. It's pretty easy, and there are a lot of tutorials available. So use it. It's very simple. Let me go back to where I left off. This is a good question from Vivek Sequera. Do you switch off and disconnect system during lightning? Uh, I don't. I don't switch off disconnect system lightning. I have noticed if you have the old day modem, like which comes from the phone line, that is the only one which is now, as of now, uh, causes the lightning problem. I have a surge protector in my main system. So as soon as the lightning happens, the surge protector will kick in and will disconnect. So I'll be on a generator supply. So the chances of lightning really hitting my system is very, very rare. Get surge protectors. That is much more important than buying a UPS. So did you build a NAS solution yourself or bought it? No, I built it myself. I just built it. Uh, yeah. Shrikant, what's the name of the Synology systems, they have very good built-in NAS systems available. You can have 4 drives or 6 drives and other things around 20 to 30,000 rupees. You will be able to get bare boxes, and then you have to put your hard disk. So the upper limit, it goes up to about say 45,000. So the system what I built was about 10,000. So that's the only advantage I have. Can you just share links and the names of the services posted in the call? Couldn't catch the names of the cloud storage alternatives. Well, those you can go through the video again. There is a which companies promise that they really work. But what if the company closes down? So you have to really look at those companies and then think they are not going to close down. And luckily, many of them have survived because the cloud storage is a in thing now. A lot of people don't want to store something offline; they want to do it in the cloud. So the cloud storage is a really a great stuff. So yeah, iCloud is available for about 75 rupees. But what's the upper limit for iCloud? For 50 GB. Oh, that's great. Is it available for non Mac users? Vikan? Oh, then I think I should try that also. Go for companies which probably may not go down in this pandemic. One is Amazon. Definitely, at least for next 4-5 years, Amazon is going to survive. Google is going to survive. Apple is going to survive. But I don't know about all small companies. So any one of these, definitely you should be able to get. So are there any questions through voice?
I think, Doctor, we covered enough.
Yeah, I think we have covered it. So give me a suggestion for the next workshop. I'm thinking of Lightroom Basic or some Photoshop stuff, anything like that. So where you can have some sort of interactive small session, then very long session where people get really frustrated at the end of it. Great pleasure seeing nearly 30 to 40 people joining. I'll be sharing these files. 1 minute. If you can go through the chat, you can copy these links. So these are all the links and the programs which I mentioned. So you can copy this chat right now. Once the program ends, you won't be able to see the chat. So just copy this. Otherwise, I'll be able to send it if you request me directly. Basic of arranging and managing photos in Lightroom. Yeah, that's in the basic option. So that I'll try to cover probably in the next webinar. Next, probably hopefully we won't be having a lockdown 4.0. And Lightroom advanced session, I already covered one of them, so I think I'll cover a little later. I don't want to disturb their session. Thank you, everybody.